Alright, time to feed these hungry Steam Deck fans. Hello viewers, mornings, another beautiful day. Yep, your 5 senses work out, the strength is good or excellent. What? Alright, listen to this. We got two articles here. Get Grumpy Torval complains of, that's Linus. Get Grumpy, Linus Torval complains of passive voice in merge commit message. And I'm gonna do the other article on Pharonics, which said this. Linus Torval asks kernel developers to write better git merge commit message. Well, let me do the one on neowin.net here. Listen to this. Get Grumpy, Linus Torval complains of passive voice in merge commit. One comment here, it says here, over the weekend the second release candidate of the Linux 6.12 was released with all the latest features and fixes. And since the first release candidate a week prior, accompanying the release of the software was the usual commentary on the Linux kernel mailing list by Linux founder Linus Torval. This week he started by explaining that RC2 release tend to be smaller, but he decided to run the numbers over a previous RC2 release and found they're only smaller about half the time. He said that this release was one of the biggest release, but nothing seems too odd. With RC3 next week, he expects more driver updates. Instead of leaving the email there, he unpacked a peeve he had about the commit message. Some developers were sending accompanying the changes they had made. Apparently the language being used is too passive instead of active. Then it says, explain his discontent in his own words. Torval said this. I try to make my merge commit message be somewhat cohesive, and so I often edit pull request language to match a more standard layout and language. It's not a big deal, and often it's literally just about white space, so that we don't have 15 different indentation models and bullet syntax. I generally do it as I read through the text anyway, so it's not like it makes extra work for me. But what does make extra work is when some maintainers use passive voice, and then I try actively rewrite the explanation, and then it says in parentheses, or admittingly, sometimes I just decide I don't care quite enough about trying to make the message sound the same. So I would ask maintainers to please use active voice, and preferably just imperative. It says here, giving an example of bad commit message, Torval provides this example. Quote, in this pull request, the XYZZY driver error handling was fixed to avoid a null pointer difference. He believes this should have been written as follows. Quote, the fix is a null pointer difference in ... Quote. Thankfully for those developers without the greatest literary skills, Torval said this is not a big deal. He just said he noticed this issue while trying to rewrite a few commit message to better fit preference and for active voice. Linux 6.12 will be released around mid-late November after around 7 release candidates have come out. It will be interesting to see what Linus Torval has to say between then and now. Right? And then he says, we got one comment here. S Plus said this. He's right. His syntax is much clearer on point. If you have just a few comments, then it's not a big deal. But if there are many comments, this little difference can mean much more than you think. Now, for the one on Pharonics, says this. Linus Torval asked the kernel developers to write better git merge. It says, yesterday, announcing the Linux 6.12 RC2 kernel, Linus Torval asked that the kernel maintainers do a better job moving forward with their commit messages. In particular, Torval is hoping that the kernel maintainer will do a better job using an active imperative voice when describing the changes within your pull requests. Then it says here, the Linux creator explained in the 6.12 RC2 announcement. Anyway, on the complete different note, I try to make my merge commit message message be somewhat cohesive. So I often edit the pull request language to match a more standard layout and language. It's not a big deal, and often it's literally just about white space, so that we don't have 15 different indentation models and bullet syntax. I generally do it as I read through the text anyway, so it's not like it makes extra work for me. But what does make extra work is when some maintainers use passive voice, and then I try to actively rewrite the explanation, then it says in brackets. Or admittingly, sometimes I just decide I don't care quite enough about trying to make the message sound the same. So I would ask maintainers to please use active voice and preferably just imperative. Put another way, I did love it if people would avoid writing their description as, quote, in this pull request, the XYZZY driver error handling was fixed to avoid a null pointer. Instead, write it as this fix a null pointer difference. In or particularly, if you just list the bullet points, make the bullet points just be, quote, fix null pointer difference in ... quote. Says here, this is not a big deal, I realize, but I happen to try to rewrite a few of these cases last week, and I think simply and to the point, language is better. The imperative version of just, quote, FX is about as clear as it gets. Then it says here, this would be great for a merge commit message to be more cohesive, as currently the quality of merge commit message can vary a lot, especially the quality of summaries or pull requests during kernel merge windows, when all of the new featured codes land, but as well too on fixes pull requests later in the cycles. And then we got 6 comments here. Let's see what these politicians talking about here. Okay, that's Veronix. So Dietrich said this, nothing controversial here. This is pretty standard in all of the OS projects that I work on / maintain. Then it says, as well as my day job, use imperative language for git commit message. Then Reba said this, that's how we do it too. Clear, precise, active, leave prosa for news blogs. And then David Beepo said this, completely agree. And then Stormcrow, English teachers all over would be proud. And then the Jack, and then Nonster said this, isn't this potentially an actual use case of LLMS? I mean, format and correcting grammar in a commit message to be overall consistent should be something to solve automatically, right? Question mark. And then Buzzard said this, if, quote, should be, quote, and is, and, quote, is, quote, are guaranteed to overlap completely on Venn diagram, sure. Otherwise, you're creating an extra horrible, annoying work for yourself. And let's see, DAC198 said this, not really, because LLM would have context about the code, so in the example Linus gave, it wouldn't be able to tell you what it fixed the null reference in. Sure, it could tell you the function name, but not the context around it or why it needed to be fixed. And then let's see, who else is this? Dak said this. No, wait a minute. Was that Dak? Okay, Bug77 said this. Been telling that to devs for years. Newsflash, the devs are still winning. Alright, well, looks like Linus is just telling their developers to write better syntax, better language when it comes to, like coding and stuff like that. So, he created Linux, so he's trying to get a better understanding of like what the problem is, so he can he can perform better by making the correction. So better language and better I would say illustration will help the programmers or engineers or developers in this situation. So this was pretty straight to the point. So hope the programmers, developers, writers take this information and then improving their day-to-day activity when coding or developing or working around Linux. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this video for y'all to enjoy that with both articles. Nice talking to you people again. Chris, no Star Wars Star Trek Blackboard Dark Side. Go. Peace.